Hello and welcome today to this introduction to Python tutorial. In this series, we'll be going through a set of lectures that will help you get an understanding of Python and will also help you in creating an application that could power a web server using Python. So we'll go through the basics, and then as the course progresses, we'll go into more complexities using Python. And by the end of this course, you will have a very good and a deep understanding of using Python for application purposes. So during the course of this particular lecture, we'll cover a few topics. So firstly, some definitions that are required to understand this particular lecture. So the set of definitions that we'll use is essentially what is an object-oriented language. We need to know what is an interpreted language, and we need to know what keywords mean in programming. So essentially, the definition of an object-oriented language is that in languages, uh, there are many ways of constructing elements in a language. For example, if you want to represent a collection of numbers, you can use a construct called an array in computer languages. So what is an array? Array is essentially a way of representing many numbers in one abstraction. And by abstraction, you mean a way of representing an entity or an object. So one can understand objects as a collection of. One could understand objects as a way of keeping information, and an example of an object is an array. So that's why I kind of started off with array, saying that this array keeps this particular information that there is a collection of three numbers, and this becomes an object for us. So that's a very plain way of understanding what objects are, right? We'll next go to what an interpreted language is. So to understand that, one needs to understand that in computers, programs or applications are usually uh, run on hardware using something called machine code. So to basically understand what machine code means is, you can imagine machine code as being a series of zeros and ones. So any program that we write or any application that we write underneath would run as a collection of zeros and ones, and this could be anything. So you can imagine an application such as a chat application, for example, WhatsApp, or a web application such as Facebook that we end up using is eventually converted into zeros and one before it runs on machine. And the way this conversion or this translation happens, right? This translation can happen in many different ways. So there are two ways, primary ways in which the translation happens. One is using a compiled language paradigm. So we'll write this as COMP, which stands short form for compiled, and the other is an interpreted language paradigm. Uh, so the major difference between a compiled and an interpreted language paradigm is that a compiled program gets translated into zeros and ones before the program is done, and an interpreted language gets translated into zeros and ones when the program is done. So there's a subtle difference between a compiled and interpreted language, and we'll come to why we are actually trying to define these in a little while. So what is the keyword? So in any language that we use for coding, there are certain predefined words. For example, in Python, there are predefined words like print, or there are predefined operators like plus. So plus is used for addition, print is used for printing something on the machine, on the standard output or on the terminal, or something that you can see, right? So these are predefined in the language, and we cannot use these words as variables in the program that we write. So what is Python? So Python is essentially a object oriented and an interpreted language, and we're not referring to the Python as the animal that we know of, but it's actually a computer science language as well, and it's used a lot for scripting applications, and we'll come to what scripting actually means in subsequent lectures as well. So now let's get down to actually writing a Hello World program and have some fun with writing programs in Python. So in this lecture, we'll cover a very simple program, and the program essentially is going to be something of the nature of wherein we print a hello world. So the way you do it is we would write print as the command that is used. We then put in braces and then type in hello world. So note that the print keyword was used as the first word. Then we had an open brace and an end of a brace, and the string that we wanted to print was put in within quotes. So this is the syntactic definition in which Python programs are written. We need to know that. And to run a Python program, we can just type the run hello world, which is pretty much the name of the file. And you can see that hello world gets generated at the bottom part of this file. So this is basically one way of running the Python program, and this is using an IDE which is IntelliJ. You can use, there are many different IDEs available. For example, Eclipse is a very common use IDE as well. Now I'll show you how to run it using a terminal, which is also a very common way of running it. So let's write a hello world simple Python program using the same set of commands that we use, and then you can go to the shell and type in Python hello world.py and you get hello world out. So, and now with this we've kind of learned how to write a very simple but the first basic step towards writing a program in Python.